Recently, someone made a comment on my video about shock vests being used on a defendant. Use of restraint devices such as shackles and shock vests on defendants in a courtroom setting can be a controversial topic. While these are used in extreme circumstances, often when there is a perceived threat of violence or flight risk, their use has significant implications for the perceived fairness and humanity of the legal process. A stun belt or shock vest is an electric controlled device. If activated by a remote control, it delivers an electric shock to the individual wearing it, causing pain and incapacitating the person temporarily.
I'm operated by a simple little, looks kind of like a key fob for your car. It's not easily activated. You have to push and hold two buttons at the same time. And once that's done, it emits a 5 to 8 second burst, and which should put the person right to his knees and for deputies to garner control of him.
Okay, so for the use of these belts, you said they're only during a specific instance. When are these used for inmates?
Our policy dictates that a person never leaves our jail floor unsecured. Secured meaning with use of belly chain, shackles, and handcuffs. In a jury setting, in the courtroom, the judge does not order such shackling, so we have to have an alternative, something that can't be seen by a jury, and this is the alternative. It's completely hidden underneath clothing, and it makes the person appear they're unrestrained even though they are.
This is the rack vest, similar to a bulletproof vest, without the Kevlar inserts. It applies to the wearer the same way a ballistic vest would, with these adjustable Velcro straps. The large difference, as opposed to the rack belt, are contact positions. There are 4 probes total, 1 at each shoulder, as I'll show you in a moment, 1 on each lower quadrant of the back. Current running back and forth between these 2 points, creating greater intensity through greater distance. You'll find an insert plate. The insert plate contains the 2 components, the receiver module and the stun module. Positive leads and negative leads are connected to the stun module. Here you can see the 2 probes that would be on either shoulder and the 2 contact probes that would be at the bottom, over the lower part of the back. Activation of the device, you turn it on with a barrel key just like the rack belt, and depress the 2 switches. As with the rack belt, this is 50,000 volts and runs for approximately 8 seconds, allowing a window of time of pain compliance for officers to gain control of the individual. This is the rack vest worn by an individual. The rack vest can be worn over the clothing or under the clothing. As you can see, it is very similar to what you may recognize as a bulletproof vest. However, there is no Kevlar in the unit.
When we put the vest on, we'll have the inmate understand, this is a shock vest, Under Sheriff Robert Carl said. Behave yourself. It's effective even if it isn't deployed, he added. To people in the courtroom, a defendant wearing the vest will appear to be wearing normal clothes. Violent inmates are sometimes, but rarely, chained by the legs during a trial to provide some security and to avoid making the person appear guilty. With the vest, it will maintain a degree of security without saying, that's the guilty guy, Carl said. The approximately $2,100 vest, paid for through a few different funding sources, is a tool to use for inmates the sheriff's department believes might be uncooperative and violent in court. Those inmates will be outfitted with the stun vest underneath their clothes. In the event that one tries to attack someone, officers will tell the defendant to stop before using a remote control to activate the vest, delivering 50,000 to 75,000 volts of electricity to 4 points on the defendant's back for 5 to 8 seconds. Someone hit with the stun vest would be incapacitated and officers would then handcuff them before sending them for medical attention.
I am fine with the shock vests being used under their clothing in replace of having them come in the court wearing shackles to prevent prejudicing the jury, the public, the judge. These things do have an effect. If you see somebody as a prisoner, it's easier for you to see them as a criminal, as opposed to if you see them looking like me and you every day, walking off the street, then you look at that person as a person. And I think that the shock vests are great for that. I think it's a very smart way to keep control of potential safety risks while also allowing the defendant to appear as a person. The problem I have with Richard Allen is that they brought him in a 5-point restraint system. His jail clothes and he has a shock vest on. And that to me is overkill, and that's what I have a problem with. I believe the rule is that you're supposed to use like the least restrictive restraints on a person, and this all ties into the presumption of innocence. And this idea is so important to our democracy, and it's a cornerstone of judicial process. Kitty! I apologize, Mike. I'm not trying to defend Richard Allen in particular. I'm talking about like all the ways that I see this case getting dangerously close to these lines that infringe on rights. And the reason that this is important for all of us to pay attention to is because a potential way to get evidence dismissed, thrown out, or appeal after already convicted. And to point out where I see that they're not doing this case justice by like putting Richard Allen in all these situations. Like, this isn't normal. That's not how they treat most prisoners. And if something isn't normal, that's going to be a problem. There's a reason why they do things the way that they do, and I just want them to do that with Richard Allen. So thank y'all for watching. I hope this shows the doubters out there that they really do use shock vests, and they do look like ballistic vests. Legal system, it doesn't matter how your feelings are, it matters how the law goes. And if they're violating rights, it doesn't matter if it's like the biggest piece of crap and they find all kinds of good evidence, it will get thrown out, because you have to follow the book in order to prosecute a case correctly. And so that is really my main concern with all of this. Thank you. Bye.